Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. I am Mean Chet Martin, joined as always by the redneck Brian Bro.
Here, present, ready to roll.
And fearless CV Burton.
Join us into the shadowy band of a show that does not exist.
Well, we do exist. We do exist.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of shadow banning going on. Of course, we have two great guests for you as usual. Sometimes we have two, sometimes we have three, but today we're going to have Julio Rivera, owner of the Reactionary Times, coming by with us. Also, Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy, Claire Lopez, coming on with us. She was also involved with the Ted Cruz campaign when he was running for the presidency of the United States. So Claire's going to be dropping some knowledge with us. And we're going to be talking about Trump's posturing with Iran. With Julio, we're going to be talking about the Cohen tape releases. So there's a lot of stuff with the two guests that we're going to really be swinging for the fences on. But there are a few other things I wanted to get through before we got into any of that stuff. You know, this story that came out of Toronto with a piece of crap named Faisal Hussein, 29, who now ISIS is claiming was a soldier of the Islamic State when he carried out this attack, and it was in response to calls to target the citizens of the coalition countries. That's targets by ISIS. Based on language used in previous claims by ISIS, it appeared the shrinking Islamist group looked at Hussein as having been merely inspired by ISIS rather than having been directed. The group did not provide further details or any evidence. Like, they're going to give you all the details they need.
This is how we contacted him. This is how we've been communicating, and this is the way that we're funneling money to him. Oh,
Canada tried to sweep it under the rug. They knew he was on a terrorist watch list. He had gone in and out of Afghanistan many a time. They knew he had ISIS propaganda, that he was looking at it online, and yet again, they said nothing until finally he goes out on a mass shooting spree, kills a 10-year-old girl and a young lady. And you know what really bothers me about this story, and I understand why it gets swept under the rug because of all the information that came out about Cohen and everything that's happening with the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, you name it, but my God, ISIS came out and killed a child and a young lady and wounded many others. Yeah. And nobody's talking about it. Like it never happened.
Well, I mean, listen, Canada did the same thing when you had a guy drive a truck or van down a crowded street and plow into people. And they just, he's mentally insane. He's got mental health issues. You can't blame everything on mental health. Because if that's the case, it's funny,
Except
as I'm saying that, it's funny how when there's a terrorist attack, they blame it on mental health to sweep it under the rug, but whenever there is a mass shooting, they blame it on guns and not on mental health.
You could blame liberalism on mental health, right?
Yeah, sure. And you can blame liberalism on letting pieces of junk like this into these countries. Like Prime Minister Trudeau is allowing ISIS fighters that were Canadian citizens to come back into the country. Yeah, they've had big town halls about it with him. I've watched them where veterans from Canada confront him on the issue. And he says that everybody deserves a second chance. People that committed war crimes.
Wow.
I have people on my Facebook page coming and saying, well, he's a citizen. What can you do about it? See, that's the liberal ideology.
Put a needle in his arm.
He committed a war crime. Back
Treason.
when the Nazis did it, we hung them or we shot him in the head. Period. America did that.
And he shouldn't have been a citizen in the first place. I mean, where is the vetting? I mean, he's been to Afghanistan a number of times. He lived there. And why are the officials asleep at the wheel? I mean, he's on the internet. He's going to websites, pro-ISIS websites. Don't they have any algorithms that check,
No, just conservatives.
When he says something like, I support ISIS, doesn't that raise a red flag?
Just conservatives. Just conservatives. Yeah. And, that's what bothers me here is it seems like when these terrorist attacks do happen with slime balls like these, the news is moving so fast that nobody can keep up with it, and then they forget about it, and then it's gone. I bet there's no one talking about this anymore. I mean, literally no one. It is dead. It's gone. That little girl died in vain.
Well, you know, the sad part about it is obviously, besides the fact that this little girl and other young lady were killed and so many were injured, is that, you know, it happened in another country, right? So it happened in Canada. It's, you know, Americans are very callous in that way. You know, when these attacks happen in England and other places in the world, I mean, they report on it, and then it's other news, unless it involves, you know, Ariana Grande. You know, then it's in the cycle for the next 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, but, you know, or if it's Beyonce getting, you know, jacked for her jewelry in a hotel room, you know, then
that
it's
was Kardashian.
Or Kardashian, I'm sorry.
They both have big
Whatever.
rear ends.
Big rear ends. It doesn't matter.
Easily confusable.
Easily confusable. You know, both wonderful Americans
From the back.
You know, so I mean, but you know, then it's news. You know, then it's newsworthy.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like the number of shootings that happen in this country, and you know, look at the attack with the Home Depot truck rental in New York City.
And immediately
that was I mean, that was like
that was swept under the rug.
2-3 days
Yep.
and gone, and nobody's talking about it. Haven't heard much anything about it. Nothing.
And remember, he was in the hospital getting service from our doctors and nurses, and he wanted to fly the ISIS flag. You remember that? He was asking to fly the ISIS flag.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Put the cockroach down.
How does saying that he was just merely inspired, not really a member of ISIS, make us feel any better?
It shouldn't.
Doesn't that make it worse? Because all you have to do is be merely inspired, and you're going around shooting 10-year-old girls. That's horrific. Merely inspired, that doesn't quell my nerves at
And
all.
then the mosque that he attended and his parents say, well, he was mentally ill. Yeah, we know he was mentally ill. He was a Muslim.
Right.
His religion is sick. So, of course, he was mentally ill.
What really should concern Americans is how close to our doorstep that is. How close to our doorstep. I mean, it's right across the border.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, Buffalo's on the other side, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and New York City's not far from that.
That's why we need a wall on the North Shore.
And I'm telling you, you know, they're here. I mean, obviously we know that because we are dealing with these kinds of attacks here in the United States.
Of course they are.
But it should concern our government and our people when our neighbor, who once upon a time we really had a great relationship with Canada. Obviously, it's dwindling with a moron like Trudeau at the helm. But you know, it should concern you because a lot of Americans go to Toronto. They go to Niagara Falls. They go to Montreal. They go to a lot of places in Canada, Vancouver. And, you know, it should concern Americans because it's right there.
Is he a moron or does he know what he's doing?
He's a moron.
I don't know. You know, it's just like with Obama. When people
Either
would
he's
say,
a moron.
When people would say Obama's a moron, I don't think Obama was a moron. I think Obama knew exactly what he was doing.
So you think he's just the son of Castro doing the communist
Oh, he's
thing?
definitely a devout socialist. That much I can tell you.
I tell you, dude, when you look at the pictures of him and Castro, it's crazy how close it is.
It is pretty crazy how close it is. I agree. He does look just like him. It's sick. That's his daddy.
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy? All right, guys, listen, we're going to come back. We know a little bit about this topic, but President Trump is vowing to probe Twitter over alleged shadow banning, and you actually had some of the folks in Twitter admitting that they shadow banned, and they've done it throughout with Project Veritas, but we're going to talk about it right here on Freedom on Deck. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Listen, folks, go to freedomondeck.com. It's under works right now. We still have to put the final touches on it. We are. But at freedomondeck.com, you can go like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You can check out our BitChute channel, check out our YouTube channel, and you can get all the podcasts that are midweek there, and you can get all the archives that are heard right here on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk there as well. And it's just a one-stop shop for all of our social media accounts, which get shadow banned.
The one-stop chop shop.
Yeah, which get shadow banned. And that's what we're going to be talking about next, because President Donald J. Trump took to Twitter Thursday morning to blast the social media platform over the reported practice of shadow banning certain prominent Republicans, and we're going to get into that. Because,
we have prominent Republicans?
There are plenty of regular folks that lean right that are being shadow banned as well, including us. We're not prominent Republicans, okay? So we're going to talk about that too. But restricting their visibility in search results, shadow banning prominent Republicans, not good. We will look into this discriminatory and illegal practice at once. Many complaints, Trump tweeted. In a direct swipe at the platform he used to energize and connect with his base since the 2016 campaign, the social media giant came under fire from Republicans after the practice was first reported by Vice News. I don't think Vice News was the first to report on that, but I'm reading this.
No.
I'm reading this from MSN, so go figure. But the thing is, Twitter's not the only one that's shadow banning. I mean, everybody is, and to a greater extent, you can't even go on Google without it dragging you to ABC, NBC, and CBS, and CNN, and MSNBC first before you even get into Breitbart. I mean, Fox News will be the next on the line, but you're not going to see Breitbart or the Daily Wire or Daily Caller or anything like that. They're gonna shove them to the back. But this shadow banning is happening. People are dropping off of our Twitter left and right, and for a while we were picking them up. I have not decreased my activity on Twitter,
and we have not seen any increase.
No, there's not been. For a few months there was steady increase.
Oh, steady.
Where it was like 20 a day.
Yep. Where
we were picking them up, and then once they figure out that you're gaining some steam, all of a sudden it stops.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, look.
What is it at Twitter? At Freedom on Deck on Twitter?
Yeah.
Well, listen. What kind of justice are we going to get anyway with Jeff Sessions in place? There is not going to be any justice of any kind, whether it's shadow banning of social media platforms of conservative users on those platforms, whether it's any number of cases that are presented to the DOJ. You're not going to see any justice for Hillary. So any of you out there that believe that there's going to be justice for Hillary, or that she's going to go to jail or be prosecuted, you're living in a dream world at this point. It's not going to happen. There was a glimmer of hope, and then it was gone. So there's not going to be any justice until you get this guy out of that position.
I agree.
He has no reason to be there any longer. Trump, he was fooled. Bottom line, I really believe that at this point. I believe that.
Well, yeah, when he comes
Republican
out and defends
rhinos,
Rod Rosenstein,
yeah, give me a break.
That's it for me.
Give me a break.
That was it.
That
and
guy
he's
is
MIA.
a scum.
You want to say the MIA AG?
Oh yeah,
missing in action Attorney General comes out of the closet every once in a while, and he just sounds like a little weak man that doesn't have any balls anymore. But going back to this shadow banning, CV, a lot of people claim that it's an independent community, an independent company, rather, that Twitter is, so you really have no rights there. But I think it's the biggest robber of your First Amendment rights. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it is a law that says you cannot falsely advertise. If they're advertising that they give everybody equal treatment and their platform is to express yourself freely, then they're lying and they're fooling the public, and that is actionable, in my opinion. That is a breach of the public trust.
And what about when Project Veritas went out and actually caught these bastards from Twitter, excuse my language, admitting that they purposefully go and find conservative accounts and put them on a list?
Yeah, caught red-handed.
Oh, absolutely. And you know something? It really what it's going to take is somebody that is going to have the cojones to sue them and challenge them in court for violating their First Amendment rights. That's really what it's going to take, because there have been cases where people have flashed their headlights to other cars, oncoming cars, to warn them that
the police.
That the police are up ahead, and have been pulled over, harassed, ticketed, all types of other stuff. And it took somebody with a pair of cojones to go and sue. And guess what? They took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that it is a form of language. Sign language is a form of language. Ships communicate with flashes of light to one another. It's a form of communication. It is your First Amendment right. If I want to tell other drivers on the road that there's a cop up ahead, I should have that right. So if a simple act like flashing your lights to other cars on the road is a protected form of speech, then how come your free speech on a social media platform that is free to use is allowed to be discriminated against?
Yeah, I don't know. It's even gotten to the point where Facebook has started to stifle ads of Republicans running in the midterms. We're going to talk about this a little later. I'm not going to get into all of it right now.
Right.
But a certain Republican that had a pro-Second Amendment ad, Facebook decided that it wasn't good enough for their social media site. So they basically shadow banned it. Mm-hmm. It was put up on Facebook. It ran on Facebook, but hardly anyone saw it.
Right.
Only a handful of people saw the thing, and the guy's got thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. How can that be? Mm-hmm. It's because when you put it out, I don't know how they do it. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is that they do to put the kibosh on your
algorithms, and you have these engines just like a search engine. You know what I mean? How the heck can you and I be having a conversation and go on to our phones and to Facebook, and there's an ad for something that we were just talking about?
Right.
It's because they're using your speaker on your phone to listen to you.
Right.
And then as soon as you go to Facebook, if you were talking about copper pot ads start coming up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
so as soon as they see an ad for this guy saying Second Amendment or guns or anything like that,
well, then
boom.
There's that, and I also think there's also key phrases or key words that when you put it in Second Amendment,
boom.
Freedom, conservative, Trump,
Muslim,
whatever. No, you're seriously right. And they figure that out and they put a kibosh to it.
Well, I'm just happy that Trump is going to do something about it, even though it took Representative Gates and Donald Trump Jr. to shine the light on it. Perhaps it'll filter down to us non-prominent Republicans, too.
That's what I hope, because I saw you actually make a statement about that on Facebook, speaking of Facebook, and I was like, he's absolutely right. This shouldn't only be concentrated on prominent Republicans. This should be concentrated on all Americans. And you know what? If it was happening to you liberals, I wouldn't want it to happen to you either.
That's right.
Because it always comes back around. Listen, coming up, we got the owner of the Reactionary Times. He's got big news about the website. And he's also a contributor to Newsmax, LifeZet, you name it, Julio Rivera. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. WJJF on your FM dial, Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. You are rocking with the best. I am Mean Chet Martin. Of course, I'm here with Brian Bro and CV Burton. And we'd like to welcome back to the program the owner of the reactionarytimes.com, contributor to Newsmax, The Hill, LifeSet, The Washington Examiner, and many more, Julio Rivera. Julio, welcome back, sir.
Hey, man, it's been too long, man. I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
I know. I try to get you back on as much as possible, but you're so busy, and we're going to get into that in a second. But, Julio, Reactionary Times is getting totally revamped, and a lot of our listeners have checked you out, so tell our listeners what's taking place with your media platform.
Okay, well, it's a complete redo of the website. It's going to be a multimedia-friendly site. We're going to have widgets where we're going to be featuring a lot of great media, including the Freedom on Deck podcast, which we're very excited that you guys are a part of it as well.
So are we.
We've got Dan Adams, contributions from Cindy Gross, Xander Gibb, and so many more. It's going to be very, very exciting. We're taking the site to the next level. We're going to start producing a lot more videos. Reactionary Times Television, which you guys remember from last year. Mm-hmm. We're also working on all of that to bring that back, and we will be re-premiering, Reactionary Times Television, or Season 2 begins in September. So a lot of things going on with Reactionary Times over the next several weeks, and we hope that all your listeners will check it out.
Yes, exactly, and it was awesome of you to put us on there. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. We've always had a great relationship with you, so kudos for that. Now, Julio, last Wednesday you attended an event at Trump Towers for Judge Jeanine Pirro's new book. I saw some of the pictures, and it was a who's who of the conservative world. Tell us some details about this event, Julio. How cool was it?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I felt so patriotic in that day. I mean, I feel patriotic every day, but just being there in Trump International Hotel with all of these great conservatives, and seeing what's going on in the country right now. I mean, you're seeing the great GDP numbers that just came in, the 4.1, in the last quarter. That's spectacular. Trump has been averaging 2.8% GDP quarterly since he's been president, which is double, coincidentally, what Obama did. Obama and his whole new normal was nonsense. But just being there during these times, I mean, these are really great times in American history. We were in a really bad place at the tail end of the Obama administration, and just being there in one of Trump's, one of his flagship hotels, and with all these great people. The party was actually thrown by Eric Lara and Don Jr., and they were there actually too. It was really nice to see a lot of people. You saw, I think, you saw some of the pictures that I had, and those people were in there and stuff. But it was great. Definitely you could check those some of that information out on the Reactionary Times Facebook page and on our Instagram as well.
Yeah, it was very cool. I saw you sneaking in like a Cheshire cat behind Judge Jeanine and Trump's son-in-law there, Jared, and so you getting a little
the very very tall Jared, by the way, too. He's very tall.
Is he? Is he a cool guy?
I talked to him briefly. He seemed like a very nice guy. He was definitely really cool.
Okay, he always seemed kind of stiff to me, so I was just wondering a little bit about him. But
yeah,
okay. I mean,
I think he gets a bad rap. I mean, it's one of those things. People have their perceptions, and but he seems like he's an okay guy.
Now, Julio, President Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen leaked audio to CNN of himself and President Trump detailing a payoff that was supposedly intended for a former Playboy bunny. Prosecutors were unaware that he was going to leak the tape. Will this complicate his ability to reach a deal with the government, Cohen, Julio?
I think this is probably the government's pulling and pressuring him to do these things. I mean, I think that, and Trump was very loyal to Cohen for a long period of time. Maybe he expressed his support via Twitter for Cohen. And then Cohen's kind of, and I called it out, yesterday on Newsmax. I mean, this is kind of an unethical thing. It's breaching the, client, attorney privilege there. I don't think necessarily he should have been, disclosing that kind of information. He shouldn't have been recording his client. I think that's really if you want to call it a sin, I don't want to call it a crime. I don't know what the consent laws are for recording conversations. Like I know, for instance, in New Jersey, there's a one consent law, so I can record any phone conversation that comes into me legally. But I don't know how it works in New York or what the circumstances were. But he shouldn't have been recording the conversations, and he shouldn't have been leaking the conversations once he did it. This is the bottom line, right? As far as Trump saying that he didn't know about certain things or whatever the case may be, like they talk about like to make it bigger than this, like because I think the Cohen thing is not really that big of a deal, but like I know a lot of people were making a big deal about whether he knew about the Trump Tower meeting that took place between Don Jr. and Jared and a couple of other people with that Russian attorney. Donald Trump has never been questioned by federal prosecutors on any of this stuff. So this isn't like a Kenneth Starr, where Bill Clinton actually lied, while he was, to investigators, so there isn't any impeachable offenses here. There isn't any indictable offenses here. This is just another example of a lot of smoke with no fire. And this is just something for the mainstream media to run with to try to disparage the president.
And Julio, payoffs are made all the time in high-profile cases. This certainly doesn't prove guilt, does it?
It doesn't necessarily prove anything, and it's not necessarily anybody's business either. You know what I mean? Like Donald Trump was running a presidential campaign. People are very opportunistic. When you're rich, you basically got a bullseye on your back when you're a high-profile person. Mm-hmm. So, yes, anybody that, if Donald Trump bumped into somebody, 20 years ago and didn't say, excuse me, somebody's going to run around and try to sell their story to try to make the president look bad in the middle of a campaign. This is just par for the course. This is something that Trump has had to deal with as a candidate and as a president, and I think he's done it probably better than anybody alive could have. You know what I mean? He's got so much gravitas that he can just kind of get through these things. I don't think any of this stuff is going to damage him. I think ultimately the results that he's producing as president, I think, is really what matters to the American people. This midterm is not going to be what people are predicting. I don't think that the House is really in jeopardy. I don't think the Senate certainly is not in jeopardy. And I think we're just going to continue on. Trump is going to win a second term. And, in 2024, at the beginning of 2025, we're going to be in a much better place than we were at the beginning of 2017.
No, and for all the reasons that you said at the beginning, the growth of the GDP, the economy, jobs, everything, that's what people concentrate on. And we have owner of the Reactionary Times, Julio Rivera, with us. Julio, a group of 11 House Republicans have introduced 5 articles of impeachment against Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein. Is this just posturing by Republicans to send a message, or is there real intent here?
I'd like to see the unredacted, memos that actually list, and I think America should see, who are they actually investigating and what they are actually investigating them for. I think that's what a lot of Republicans want to know, because it just seems like this investigation is this open-ended, a goose hunt. It's basically, a wild goose chase. Like, what are they actually looking for? They're looking for, to me, and the perception is that they're going after people for things that are unrelated to any kind of Russian collusion or even the Trump presidential campaign. But what they're trying to do is if they find dirt on whether it's Cohen, whether it's Manafort, whoever it is, what they're going to try to do is put intense pressure on these people. Right now, they've got Manafort in solitary confinement. I mean, that's horrible. They're trying to break him, and they're going to try to break him to the point where he's just going to come out and he's going to tell the government anything that they want to hear, as far as something negative against Trump, whether it's true or not. They're just going to try to manufacture an indictment against this president, and they're doing it, quite frankly, I mean, they're using, and it's funny because I remember Manafort used, when he was a Trump campaign manager, and he was talking about the Cruz campaign, he accused them of using Gestapo tactics, and which was really nonsense, and I got a kick out of it at the time. But the truth is that this investigation is using, and the Mueller probe is using Gestapo tactics. I mean, I think that they're what they're doing to Manafort is not proportionate to what he supposedly, been indicted for. Like, there's no reason they should have him. He shouldn't be in jail right now while he's awaiting trial, and he certainly shouldn't be in solitary confinement. This is bullying, more or less. This is what it's tantamount to, them just trying to squeeze this guy and put him under intense pressure. The way that they raided his house when they went and they took the documents, from his house. They came in the middle of the night. They came guns drawn. This guy isn't, a drug lord or something like that, or this isn't, a serial killer or something, or like the leader of MS-13 or something, where you got to go into his house and do it in that manner. I think it's really particularly disgraceful the way that Manafort's been treated. If he did commit a crime, then just go through the regular process. But I think that this is something where they're reaching here, and what they're looking for is they're looking for somebody to say something that can be used against the president. But again, that's why it's important to get that redacted memo. And Congress they did make a request for the unredacted memo, which was denied. Why are they denying the unredacted memo? You know what I mean? Because they probably don't want to show America that what they're investigating has nothing to actually do with the basis of the investigation. And this is just being carried out and drawn out. As far as Rosenstein himself, I think it's time to end this investigation. Jeff Sessions recused himself, so for all intents and purposes, the most important person in the Justice Department since this investigation has begun has been Rosenstein. So I mean, I look at it like this. I mean, you got Trey Gowdy kind of supporting Rosenstein. You've got some, House members that want to see him impeached. It's kind of causing a divide within the Republican Party. But you know what? What's new? The Republicans are always divided.
Yeah, I know, but he failed to comply with Congress. I mean, he was withholding information from Congress, and he used subpoenas and abuse with FISA, and these are all very serious charges. But Julio, we only have a little bit of time to go. But MIA attorney Jeff Sessions actually made a statement claiming that he has absolute confidence in Rosenstein. There has to be a reason that Sessions hasn't been fired yet. What gives, and do you think he'll be fired after the midterms?
I think if he is going to be fired, it will be after the midterms. I think that would be really bad optics right now if Trump pulled the trigger on any of those kinds of decisions. I think it would actually wind up hurting him if he did do that. So I would look to see Jeff Sessions replaced, but it's not going to be until after the midterms.
So you do think he will be replaced, though?
I think he will, but I think that this was a real slap in the face to the president. I think the president wants to see himself exonerated, which I have full confidence that he will be. This investigation will eventually be closed with no indictments against the president, and then at that time, then he'll have the leverage to be able to do anything he wants. Yeah, at that point, he can fire Rosenstein and Sessions if you'd like.
That'd be absolutely perfect. I'm looking forward to that. I hope that happens. I think we're all rooting for that. Now, Julio, tell everybody where they can go and check you out, not only the Reactionary Times, but where you can contribute to and all that good stuff, buddy.
All right, well, you guys please follow me on Twitter at Julio and at Reactionary TMS. That's the Reactionary Times Twitter page. My columns are featured at townhall.com. The Newsmax, obviously, is my editorial home. Washington Examiner, Washington Times, the Toronto Sun, and many others.
Excellent, everybody. That was the owner of the Reactionary Times, Julio Rivera, and we hope to get him back on within a month this time instead of going over that time. He's such a fantastic guy. But listen, come on back, because a small-town selectman's quiet protest against President Donald Trump earlier this month has set off a firestorm. We're talking about Selectman Melissa Schlag from Haddam. All you Connecticut folks should be outraged. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to FOD, Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Don't forget, go over to 949newsnow.com and see all the other programming that WJJF has to offer. Of course, the great and one only Lee Elsey, who was filling in for Wayne Allen Root. Yeah, it wasn't this past week, but it was the week before. He did a fantastic job, and we were so proud of him going national and doing what he did. And he did, like I said, he hit it out of the park. And, of course, our good friend Dan Newmeyer, who actually filled in for Lee Elsey, and I was a guest of his on Friday, and that was great. Check his show out as well, and everybody else there, we got Rocky. We have all these different shows, Justice for All with Gordon and Christine. Just all the shows on 94.9 have really grown and getting better, so please check it out. Well, let's stick local here. This is Connecticut after a Haddam select woman took a knee during the pledge. Political firestorm rages on. A small-town select woman's quiet protest against President Trump earlier this month has set off a political firestorm.
Snowflake alert.
Democrat militia Schlag took a knee during the old Schlag took a knee during the Pledge of Allegiance, and the name fits her. You got to see this video of her taking a knee. At the July 16th Board of Selectmen meeting, she said she was seeking to register her disapproval over Trump's comments regarding Russian interference in the 2016 election and other policies put forth by the administration. First of all, when I heard about this, I kind of got outraged. And then when I watched the video, I felt pity for her. She gets down on one knee. She tries to do it like the football players do, put both her hands crossed on the knee and hold herself up on her knee. Well, she was so lazy that during this, there's a table next to her, so she leans onto the table and then kind of turns away from the flag, as they said. But she wasn't even, she was too lazy to even protest and knee in the right way.
I mean, when you go down on one knee, it takes a certain amount of muscle and and stuff like that. And she probably doesn't look like exactly like she's the most fittest or
no. And she kind of looks like she was borrowing Hillary's wardrobe that day. She was dressed real nice.
Schlaggy.
The thing is, for someone to represent the people of Connecticut and where is this? This is Haddam. You represent all people of Connecticut. That flag that is in front of you when they ask you to pledge allegiance to it, that's towards your nation, your country, and your state. And the people you represent deserve at least the common, the decency and respect of you to stand for the pledge.
Yeah, well,
and to show the respect that it deserves. I
said it on on her Facebook page. I went to her Facebook page and I said a review that hey, I didn't hold back. Let's just say it that way.
Right. I saw a lot of people doing that. As a matter of fact.
And and hey, listen, I think I said it quite well. It's another liberal, socialist little liberal, and disrespecting. Only I used another colorful four-letter word. Disrespecting the men and women of Connecticut who have served this country and are serving this country and have served it in the past. And, she's disrespecting them. And these are Connecticut residents, and they don't deserve that.
Yeah.
And if that's the way you feel, listen, there used to be a time when you didn't bring politics into the workplace and things like that. You just you had your set of beliefs. Yeah, not saying that you didn't maybe necessarily talk to coworkers about certain things and subjects that were in the news or something like that. But you didn't come to work and take a knee when the Pledge of Allegiance was being played or when the national anthem was being played. Or protest, certain things. You just didn't do that because, one, your employer is paying you to represent the company, or in this case, you're being paid to represent the town.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now both supporters and critics are planning to attend this July 30th Selectmen's meeting, and Republican gubernatorial candidate Tim Herbst and Republican candidate for the state treasurer Art Linares are planning to hold a Stand for the Flag rally outside the Haddam Firehouse, where the board is scheduled to meet. And Women's March CT is, of course, getting involved in saying to support Schlag's right to take a knee during the pledge and show up at this its selectmen's meeting.
And then here come the Antifa, right?
Well, who knows?
And we know how
I don't know.
But, she's obviously inspired by the NFL people who take a knee, and there's been some dispute as to why they were doing it. Were they protesting cops? Is it about Black Lives Matter, or is it really just an anti-Trump protest? And she comes right out and admits that it's an anti-Trump protest. She says, "You didn't believe the intelligence at the Helsinki meeting," and so
who cares?
She gives herself away.
But isn't it typical of the Democrats to try to grab the attention and use like perpetual state of rage to always show themselves as I'm against Trump, but but anything that has to do with America represents Trump, when that's not true at all.
Right.
You are turning your back on the country when you do that.
Right.
I don't understand what's so hard to realize that.
Well, I think that what they're missing is that, in their hysteria because of their absolute hatred for the president because their person didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get a trophy.
Right.
And she should have gotten something. She should have got second place. She should have got, maybe Secretary of State again or something. But in their hysteria, they failed to realize that this man, at best, is only going to be here for 4 years. So you're going to disrespect the country and the people who have served it for
8 years.
200 and some odd years. For what? Because you hate the president that is currently in office? You're an idiot.
Well, Schlag supported Sanders in 2016. She's opposed to many elements
She's an idiot.
of the agenda, the MAGA agenda, including his immigration policies and his views on climate change. But, she said that she was getting a lot of threats on social media, and
sure.
she's never felt so berated in her life.
Right,
well, you know what?
Well, don't be an a-hole.
Yeah, don't play the victim here now. Don't play the victim here. You did it to get the attention. You know damn well why you did it, and you've gotten the attention. And the good comes with the bad, because all the communists are going to applaud you, but all the freedom-loving Americans are going to call you the scumbag in which you are.
Opinions are like coins. There's always two sides.
I'm glad you went.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I'm glad you went there.
Well, I'm just saying, but there's always two sides. So, you have one side and everybody else has another.
That's right. Listen, we're going to come back with Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center of Security Policy, Miss Claire Lopez. Don't go anywhere. This is Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now, and stimulating talk. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now, and stimulating talk, WJJF on your FM dial, Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. Make sure you go to Facebook, like us there, follow us on Twitter. Make sure to go to freedomondeck.com, subscribe to all our channels over at BitChute, over on YouTube, and it's a one-stop shop at freedomondeck.com. Really good stuff. Our midweek podcast is there. Also, our archives of all the shows, anything that maybe you've missed, you are able to go there and listen to all the great interviews that we've had. And we've got another great interview coming up for you. And it's a featured guest of today's program. Since 2014, Claire Lopez has served as the Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy, a Senior Fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, and a member of the Board of Advisors for the Policy Research Oh, excuse me, and for the Canadian Mackenzie Institute in 2016. She was named to Senator Ted Cruz's presidential campaign National Security Advisory Team. Welcome to the program, Claire Lopez. Thank you for coming on today.
And thanks very much for having me.
Now, Claire, I want to get right into it with you. The left's new campaign to abolish ICE is catching on among Democrat voters. 72% of Democrats have an unfavorable view of the agency, and the same percentage exactly of Republicans have a positive view. And this is according to the Pew Research Center. Is this something that progressive Democrats can run and win with? And how dangerous is a campaign like this, Claire?
I don't know how to characterize Democrats or anybody else who would like to abolish ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is a part of DHS, Department of Homeland Security. It's the agency that tracks down not just illegal aliens who crossed our border criminally without legal authorization to do so, but also tracks down those who've committed crimes. They go after gang members like MS-13. I cannot even begin to imagine what those who want to call for its abolishing might be thinking.
Since President Trump was elected, there's been a spike in arrests and deportations of undocumented immigrants. Of course, the left is claiming widespread corruption because of President Trump's zero-tolerance policy. Should we possibly look at making reforms to the agency, or do you think it's working in the way that it was intended to, as is right now?
I don't know what the reforms might be that anyone would propose. I think they're doing a spectacular job under tremendously difficult circumstances. They are dealing with the worst of the worst, criminals, gang members, drug cartel members, as well as just ordinary illegal aliens trying to sneak across our border without authorization. So I think an enormous amount of credit is due to the agents, the men and the women of ICE, and I would like to see what anyone would like to do to reform what they're doing. At the moment, it looks like they're doing just really an amazing job under terribly difficult circumstances.
Right, and they use these images of children in cages to say that ICE is somehow separating the women from the children. And it came out that some of these images, Claire, were from 2014 when President Trump, he hadn't been elected yet. So all this outrage that we're hearing from the progressives is really nonsense, isn't it?
It's all posturing, I guess is the best way to put it.
Now, ICE was established after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, correct?
It was included. It was aggregated, you might say, under the newly formed Department of Homeland Security that came into being after 9/11, and other agencies like FEMA as well were brought in together then under this new cabinet department that came into being, Department of Homeland Security, after 9/11.
I read some numbers that ICE actually stops 10 terrorists per day from entering the United States. How great would it be for the terrorists if the left was able to abolish ICE, Claire?
Well, I mean, it's not just terrorists. I don't know exactly what the numbers might be per day, for example, but it's criminals. It's MS-13 gang members.
Mm-hmm.
It's cartel narco trafficking members. All sorts of transnational criminals. This is what they do, along with others working side by side, of course, with Customs and Border Patrol, for example, also under DHS.
Now, Claire, let's turn our attention to Iran and Turkey, if we can. If we can get to Turkey, we will. But both have come under the harsh criticism of President Donald J. Trump. First of all, Claire, what's your opinion of Mr. Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuke accord? and to reimpose tough economic sanctions on Tehran?
Well, I mean, as President Trump has stated very clearly, the nuclear deal, or JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, as it's called, reached in July of 2015, was one of the worst deals the United States has ever found itself entangled in. Thank goodness there were no signatures on any page of any part of it by any member of the negotiating group, which is the P5 plus one. That's permanent 5 members of the UN Security Council: UK, US, Britain, France, and then the plus one of China, and then plus one Germany, and Iran, and the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. Not a single one of those parties ever signed a single page of the thing. So therefore, it's an easily revoked executive agreement between President Obama and whomever. But the reason, in my opinion, that it was such a bad deal is because it not only provided a glide path for Iran to legitimize its overt nuclear weapons program, but it completely ignored and did not even deal with Iran's clandestine nuclear weapons program or with its ballistic missile nuclear weapon delivery system either.
Now, Claire, I always wanted to ask this question, and it's a silly question, really. But why did the Obama administration want to embolden Iran in this type of way? Because that seems like what they did.
It does seem that way. I agree. And here's what I think. I think that the Obama administration came into office with an agenda to withdraw the United States power and influence from regions across the Middle East and North Africa, and that in our place, in their place of our power and influence, the Obama administration chose to empower the forces of Islam instead. So across North Africa, which is primarily Sunni, the Obama administration sought to empower the Muslim Brotherhood: Tunisia, Libya, Egypt. They tried the same thing in Syria, but there Bashar al-Assad has powerful allies and has managed to hang on. There, to the heartland of the Middle East, in and around the Persian Gulf, it was Iran that was to be the designated hegemon after we pulled out. And so I think it was the policy of the Obama administration that in order to empower Iran to wield power as the hegemon of the region, it really needed to have a deliverable nuclear weapons capability, and this is what the Obama administration sought to enable it to attain.
Do you see the United States and Iran agreeing to a new deal if Iran meets the Trump administration's requirements? Well, because I heard
No.
Mike Pompeo was talking about this, and I'm just asking you. I agree with you, but including Iran would have to stop funding these radical Islamic terrorist groups and stop enriching uranium, wouldn't they? And I don't see them doing that.
Well, among other things, I mean, exactly right. Now, I mean, let's look at Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He's our chief diplomat at the moment, and so he needs to work through every potential possible diplomatic solution that he can possibly think of, and that's his job. But realistically speaking, Iran, to all intents and purposes, already is a nuclear power. It certainly has the ballistic missiles to deliver not just its nuclear warheads, which it's been working on for literally decades,
Right.
but it also has a very active biological weapons and chemical weapons program, either one of which agents could fit on the nose cone, the top of an ICBM that they already have. So it's very difficult to see that they would give up this capability they've worked so long and so hard to acquire, nor are they willing, this regime in Tehran, a jihad regime, per its own constitution. It states in the constitution of Iran that it is dedicated to the spread by jihad of an Islamic state throughout the entire world under rule of Islamic law. That's in their constitution.
Right.
So it's hardly likely they're going to give up any of those objectives.
No, you're absolutely correct. Now, Claire, President Trump went to Twitter to respond to the threats made by Iran against us, and he used some very harsh language, which he's known to do, and he likes to tweet. What do you think of a back and forth between our president and the Khamenei on social media?
Yes, I saw what you're talking about, and this is part of a larger sort of framework of rising tensions between the United States and Iran. And what had happened is that the Iranian regime threatened to close down oil shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, which is the outlet of the Persian Gulf and a key major international shipping lane. Then, again, in this same backdrop, you had the Houthi rebels of Yemen, which are Shiite proxy rebels in Yemen of Iran, shooting Iranian-provided missiles at two large Saudi Arabian oil tankers in the Bab el-Mandeb. That's a strait that lies between Yemen and the Horn of Africa, another key important choke point for international shipping, causing Saudi Arabia to actually declare that it's going to temporarily cease to ship oil through that key waterway. So you've got rising Iranian threats to key international freedom of the seas and shipping lanes. And against that backdrop, these Twitter threats went back and forth. And the Iranian president, Hassan Rouhani, and also now the Quds Force commander, Major General Qasem Soleimani, have spouted off in a belligerent way. And Trump is not one to take that sort of thing lying down. And he tweeted back about a week ago, I think it was maybe last Sunday, the 22nd of July,
Yes.
in all caps.
In all caps, yep. I loved it.
In all caps, do not threaten the United States of America.
That's right.
I'm paraphrasing now, but you don't know what you're up against. Essentially, you will not prevail. Essentially, is what he wrote. So, all that against a backdrop of rising tensions, of really provoked by the Iranian regime's geostrategic aggression and belligerence in the region, and in keeping with its own constitution, attempting to spread jihad and its Islamic revolution around the region.
Well, Claire, I did want to get to Turkey, but we're not going to have any time for that. We've only got a minute to go, so it's dwindling down. But please tell everybody where they can go check you guys out and check you out in particular. Let everybody know the site, please.
Yes, thank you. So you can go to www.centerforsecuritypolicy.org, or a shorter URL would be www.securefreedom.org. Takes you to the same place, actually. There you'll find our videos, articles, occasional papers by ourselves and by other authors, guest authors, and lots of our published monographs and books, as well as Frank Gaffney's daily Secure Freedom Minute, radio interviews, and much more. So thank you very much.
Excellent, everybody. That was Claire Lopez, Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy. Come back, because Facebook is admitting that it blocked Republican candidates' pro-Second Amendment ad. Matt Caldwell, surprise, surprise. Don't go anywhere. This is Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, where our mega is so mega that we are defined in Urban Dictionary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of cool being in Urban Dictionary, you know? Described as a force that's coming to right any wrongdoings. I mean, that's just awesome, man.
Right.
You know, and I was the one that put it out there, and I asked for it, and Urban Dictionary gave it to us. So
Yeah, it's awesome.
Freedom on Deck has a definition in Urban Dictionary. You gotta
great.
love it.
It's great.
You gotta love it. Hey, man, we're coming back to shadow banning, right? Facebook admits it blocked Florida State Rep Matt Caldwell's R79 Pro Second Amendment ad. On Tuesday, the Tampa Bay Times reported that Caldwell's ad had been blocked on Facebook, which included blocking news that the NRA had endorsed Caldwell for Florida Commissioner of Agriculture. Caldwell's campaign said that they received a message from Facebook which said, "Not approved. Your ad can't promote the sale of weapons or ammunition." He responded, "Facebook's liberal agenda is keeping our campaign for Commissioner of Agriculture from sharing our message. Facebook has mislabeled our ad in an effort to censor our pro-Second Amendment support and endorsement from the NRA." Now, have any of you guys watched the ad by chance?
No. I did see the ad. He's got a shotgun.
He's not promoting selling firearms or ammunition.
No, he's got a shotgun. There's some clay pigeons behind him. I mean, obviously, clay pigeons. That's a sport. Sports type of thing.
Okay.
Sporting event. A lot of gun shoots do clay pigeons as competition.
Right.
So it's for sport. Guns aren't just for killing. Newsflash. There are competitions for shooting. There is marksmanship in shooting. It boggles my mind that they would label it as some promotion for selling guns.
Well, he didn't say, "Hey, go down to Bill's Firearms over here in Pensacola, my good buddy Bill, and you can get a good, sweet deal on an AR-15 or whatever." That's not what he did. He was showing his support for the Second Amendment by shooting his gun in the video and showing that he's quite a good marksman. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, if you had a liberal come out with a campaign ad and where she or he stood in front of a Planned Parenthood building and talked about women's reproductive rights
with a scalpel and some forceps,
they wouldn't say that you were promoting the idea of selling baby body parts, would they? Isn't it kind of the same thing? Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Facebook put out an ad on TV recently where they was talking about how they're starting to respect our privacy now.
Sure.
And then they added the line, "And we have to deal with fake news and data misuse." What does that mean, data misuse? I think it has to do with self-promotion. For some reason, socialists are against anybody who promotes themselves or their business as if it's some kind of evil thing. And if you want to promote your wares or your podcast or a book or anything, you have to pay them to boost it so more people see it. So in other words, if you don't pay them any money, your ad gets shadow banned.
And you know what really ticks me off, and me and you have talked about this, CV. I hate it when I'm a part of a conservative group and I share to them and they report it.
Yeah.
It's like,
real
we're
conservative.
We're being shadow banned as it is, and you knuckleheads are going to report that.
Well, it's trolls that have
spam.
gotten into it. That's what it is.
Yeah, I know. I know what it is, but it's just annoying. Listen, we're going to come back. President Obama and his administration were funding a pro-Al-Qaeda group. This is true stuff, folks. This is in the National Review. Come on back to Freedom on Deck.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now, and stimulating talk. We know you love or hate to talk about him, depending on who you are and what side of the aisle you're on. And a lot of liberals say, stop talking about Barack Obama. President Trump's the president now. There's no need to talk about it anymore. I hate that excuse. Because for 8 years he got away with everything. And really, now all these things are starting to come to light. And why wouldn't you talk about it? Well, you give him a free pass?
Well, it's funny,
Give him a pass?
When he was in office, they were saying, well, don't blame him. I mean, he took over a mess.
For Bush. Oh, he took over a mess. He'll probably never get it right because, how's he expected to get the GDP up? Well, President Trump did.
That's right.
They told President Trump, "You'll never get it over 3.0." Guess what? He blew that away, didn't he, gentlemen?
Well, and Barack said 1%, 2%, that's the new norm.
It's the new norm, the new reality.
Yeah.
President Trump said, "Let me tell you something. Not true, Barack. Not true at all. I'm going to show you." But listen, this is important stuff. It's an exclusive from the National Review. And all of you know the National Review, yes, it is right-wing, but it is extremely negative when it comes to President Trump. I think we all know that. Obama and his administration knowingly funded a designated al-Qaeda affiliate. The group had been on a list of terrorist funders for a decade when a government agency specifically approved funding for it. The Middle East Forum had discovered that the Obama administration approved a grant of $200,000 of taxpayer money to an al-Qaeda affiliate in Sudan, a decade after the U.S. Treasury designated it as a terrorist finance group. More stunningly, government officials specifically authorized the release of at least $115,000 of this grant even after learning that it was a designated terrorist organization. The story began in 2004 when the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets designated the Khartoum-based Islamic Relief Agency, the ISRA, also known as the Islamic African Relief Agency, as a terror financing organization. It did so because of the ISRA's links to Osama bin Laden and his organization, the precursor of al-Qaeda. According to the U.S. Treasury, in 1997, ISRA established formal cooperation with MK. By 2000, ISRA had raised $5 million for bin Laden's group. So what we have here, folks, as you can hear, the Obama administration, even though our FBI and our CIA knew that this group was involved with al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden at one point before he was killed, decided that they would provide grant money for these terrorist groups in the tune of $200,000. You might say that's chump change. But if you look over the scape of all these radical terrorist groups that either John McCain, Barack Obama, George Bush gave monies to, it comes up to a hell of a lot more than a couple $100,000.
Oh.
It comes up to hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sure. I mean, think about the Taliban. Who started the Taliban? We did. Ding, ding, ding. We did. Who funded them? We did. Who armed them? We did. Why? Because we wanted them to be our southern Russian defense. That's why. And, and then they turned around and now they've been a thorn in the United States side, so to speak. Because even to this day, there was just a report that came out 2 days ago on Friday that U.S. forces killed 2 Taliban leaders in Afghanistan in a strike. So we're still fighting them. And then you have where Barack Obama and other prior administrations are continuing the same. Mm-hmm. And you have to ask yourself why. Why were we funneling, weapons from Libya to ISIS? Why were we sending those weapons?
I think
why was Ambassador Stevens killed?
I think Obama was he hated Assad because he hated the Syrian Christians. So he was arming the insurgents, thus creating ISIS, in order to kill the Christians. I know it sounds crude and rude and everything else, but I'm not going to apologize for that because the evidence is there. He gave our best weapons to ISIS.
And McCain was behind it, too.
Yeah, McCain was behind it.
McCain absolutely is a warmongering pig. I think he has different reasons than Obama. But listen, here's the interesting part. Responding to the Middle East Forum MEF inquiry, a U.S. aid officials explained that the World Vision had alerted it in November that 2014 the likelihood that the ISRA was being linked to terror. Now they linked it to bin Laden. And in 2015, that's when we gave them these grants for these monies. Now, if it was the Obama administration that went after Osama bin Laden, why in 2015, after they were alerted in 2014 that they were involved with Osama bin Laden, would they grant them monies?
Probably because they gave up Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, he never wanted to get Osama bin Laden.
And it was payment.
It could be. I didn't think of that. I was thinking more lines of the less that, that was just a coup de grace, just to give you a look. That was all that was. For the Obama administration to look good, maybe they already had involvement with the Obama administration, gave Osama up to get him reelected at the time because the midterms of the presidential election were coming up in 2012, and then they paid them off for it. Kind of what you were saying, but in a reverse sort of way.
But how do we even know that bin Laden is dead? You know what I mean?
We don't.
How often? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, look, Hussein, you had actual video of them hanging him. With bin Laden, you had a horrible picture. I mean, listen, we live in 2018.
And Hillary like this.
Okay, 2018.
Yeah.
All right. Don't tell me that our special forces don't have better phones. Yeah, I have a better phone on my cell phone to take a picture than they did to take a picture of a target that we were going after that was an enemy of the United States. That's the best picture they could have taken. They couldn't have taken pictures after they recovered his body because we captured his body, right?
Yes.
We dumped it off a ship, supposedly. That's the best picture that they could have gotten. They couldn't have taken a better picture once they got it on the ship.
Well, that was like 2010 or
No,
somewhere around
absolutely.
Come on, think about that for a minute. They had him on a ship, broad daylight. Could have taken a better picture.
It was 2011, I believe, CV.
there. Oh yeah, somewhere around there.
It was right before,
The bottom line
I couldn't
is,
remember.
they used it as a reason to get Obama reelected.
how do we know it was really him?
We don't know, but the Obama administration officials, they knowingly approved the transfer of taxpayer dollars to an Al-Qaeda terrorist affiliate. And it wasn't an obscure one. This was an affiliate that was in the headlines. We know they had connections to Osama bin Laden and many other powerful terrorist links that were involved with this group. And here we are talking about it now.
And it was like a crafty laundering scheme. They gave like $723,000 to World Vision Incorporation, and $200,000 of that went to ISRA. And the question becomes, how many other organizations that fund terrorism did the Obama administration funnel our hard-earned tax dollars to?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Somebody would read this story and say, $200,000, what's that really providing? Who knows why they did it? But then when you start to break down all these groups, like he just said, World Vision, and that's throughout this article here. And I'm not going to mention all this stuff when I'm talking to you folks, because if I start doing that, it's going to be like bing, 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 going down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
But there are all these different radical Islamic terrorist groups that have gotten money from us, not only during the years of Barack Obama,
Dude,
but way before that.
CARE operates right here on our shores,
Amen.
dude. Okay?
Amen. Thank you.
Fast and Furious. Should we go there? I mean, we were funneling weapons supposedly under the guise
To drug cartels.
to drug cartels to find out where the guns were.
Bull.
Yeah, bull. Okay? We were funneling weapons from Libya to ISIS.
Yes, we were.
As time goes on, we
ISIS
keep
was
finding
driving
out how
around in American military vehicles.
We dropped them.
Brand new.
We dropped them
Yeah.
pamphlets.
Yeah.
Brand new.
They had and Michael Savage has talked about this many a time. If Obama wanted to stop ISIS, it would have been easy. They would do parades through those with those trucks and those vehicles, and not one of them would get touched.
Yep.
Not a one.
Because he created ISIS.
We got C-130s.
He's the president of ISIS.
We got C-130s that, I mean, literally could have shot a line of 30 millimeters in that convoy and taken out every single one of those vehicles.
That's the purpose of
Done.
You know the purpose of
And that's what we did when Trump took over. We pretty much found them and blew them up.
Well, you don't hear much about him anymore. It's very quiet.
Yeah.
You know, you had this one attack out in Toronto, but all in all, you don't hear much from ISIS anymore claiming these victories. During Obama, it was every other month.
Yeah.
It really was. Think back to it. Think back to all the attacks that were happening around the world, not just here, but everywhere.
They were putting
Yeah.
Christians in cages and dunking
Concerts
them
and
in water. And
I mean,
setting them on fire. And
France has
crucifying
been
them.
quiet. I mean,
It's true. There is a Trump effect here with the Islamic State. There is. We have taken them down a bunch of pegs. They're not gone, nor do I think they ever will be.
I don't think they're going to be like the Taliban.
Right.
They'll be a shell of what they were, but they will always exist.
It will always exist. But, you know, you have to talk about these things. I understand he's not in power anymore, folks. I get it. He's not. He's gone.
He's trying.
But he's trying. You're right. He certainly acts like he still is. And when you have somebody promoting terrorism in this sort of way, and it's not only Barack Obama, it happened with many of the deep staters. There's a reason they do it. It's to cause chaos.
And he never
And
shuts
to
up
promote
about
that
Trump.
agenda.
He never shuts up about Trump. He's constantly crawling out of the woodwork, bitching about Donald Trump.
Yeah, but he doesn't wear tents like Hillary. The bed sheet.
Dude, who wore it best? The tablecloth or Hillary? Dude, that is crazy. She really looked like she came straight out of the psych ward.
Well, what I think
Yeah.
let's get into this for a little bit because we got a little bit of time before we get into the next topic. I think they're hiding something with her because she is wearing a medical alert necklace, if you guys have noticed. The medical alert necklace that they promote on TV, she's wearing it. Oh. And then she's got this big gown that fluffs over everything.
Yeah.
I think they're hiding the Depends. They're hiding
You think
the
she's
back
got-
brace.
You saying she's got the bag?
She looks hard. Yes.
I heard she
yes.
smells something awful.
Well, we heard about those emails.
Yeah.
The urine and the cabbage farts. That was all there.
Oh, man.
I mean, she's definitely hiding something.
Well,
There's
she
no
was
doubt
sick.
about
She was
that.
sick when she was running. She's
Well,
only
listen,
getting sicker.
Literally, they had a man that stood next to her and had a syringe in his hand, and that is true. There was pictures of it to show that he was literally with a syringe in his hand, standing next to her, as though it was like he was going to
There you go.
Narcan her.
in case she did this, went through the seizure. All right,
Crazy.
listen, folks, we're going to come back to it, and this is a little bit localized too. But New York Governor Cuomo is granting pardons to dozens of convicted sexual predators, allowing them to vote. Isn't New York wonderful? I love it. It's the land of opportunity over here, liberal land of understanding. Come back to Freedom on Deck.
Are you scared?
No.
Devil without a cause, and I'm back with the beaver hats and Ben Davis slacks. 30-pack of strolls, 30-pack of hoes. No Rogaine in the propane flows. The chosen one.
Oh yeah! Welcome back to FOD. It's time for the final thoughts. We ain't scared. You scared?
Heck no.
CV, you scared?
I'm the fearless one. I don't get scared.
That's right. We don't get scared around here. You liberals scared? If you're scared, turn the dial. Don't worry. There is a safe space somewhere for you. It could be in a closet. It could be under the bed. It could be in your mother's basement. We don't know where it is, but somewhere you'll go and find it for sure. And let's come on back to New York. Let's keep it rolling back to New York because Governor Cuomo, King Cuomo, as we like to call him,
Raggedy Andy,
as we like to call him, he's granting pardons to dozens of convicted sexual predators, allowing them to vote. Cuomo, Democrat in New York, as if you didn't know, has issued conditional pardons to dozens of convicted sexual predators, allowing them the right to vote, the New York Daily News reported. Among the thousands who have received conditional pardons in recent months, nearly 80 have been deemed too dangerous to return to the community after being released from prison. In May, Cuomo announced that he had restored the right to vote for more than 24,000 parolees in his first wave of conditional pardons. Quote from Cuomo, "The right to vote is fundamental and is unconscionable to deny the basic right of citizenship to New Yorkers who have paid their debt to society. Restoring a voice to men and women re-entering their communities will strengthen our democracy as well as the re-entry process, which in turn will help reduce recidivism." Bull. At least 77 sexual predators who were pardoned and seen as unfit to return to their communities were ordered to one of the 2 state psychiatric hospitals for civil confinement, according to the Daily News. Among the sexual predators pardoned is Hector Avila, 61, who was convicted of second-degree rape. In 2008, he was called the voodoo rapist and told his young victims, who were all underage, so he's a pedophile, that he could help them with their problems if they participated in sexual ritual with him. He threatened them and their families if they didn't comply. You see, isn't it great that Cuomo's going to his base and giving them something for nothing? Ain't it wonderful?
Listen, I don't even know if Cynthia Nixon would have done or taken that step.
Yeah, she would.
I don't know. I mean,
she's crazy.
She's crazy, but she is also a woman. And for a woman to pardon predators like that, she'd have a real hard time selling that one. This guy just is unbelievable. He has literally destroyed this state. Destroyed it. Single-handedly destroyed this state. And we are left with the pieces. And this guy, no repercussions. Listen, you know what the repercussion is? In November, do not vote this guy in again. That's the repercussions for the man. The fact that he could pardon, it's not even like he's saying that they could vote. He's pardoning people that violated the basic human rights of other individuals. Sexual predators. People that are in your communities, that are preying upon your children. And by pardoning them, I guarantee you they no longer have to register as a sex offender because they're pardoned.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't know how to follow that.
Well, follow it. What do you think about all this?
Andrew Cuomo targets conservatives in New York State. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been audited, and my returns have not been given to me. And he came right out and said that conservatives are not welcome in New York. That's not who New York is, apparently, even though I was born here. And as far as these people that he's giving pardons to, like there were thousands of them, and they've noticed that they've had 2 addresses, one of them being mental hospitals. And these are the only people who would vote for a moron like Andrew Cuomo. And it reminds me of the days of yore. If anybody remembers Bob Grant, how he used to make fun of his dad, Mario Cuomo. And I'm just going to say it right now just to annoy Andrew in case he's out in the Hamptons and he's listening to this right now. Hey, Andrew, a son de me, tu si provinos fascim. And you are.
What does that mean again?
He's a lowlife.
He is a lowlife. Exactly. Our buddy Larry Sharp, who's been on the program, said this is hands down the most egregious public policy misstep Andrew Cuomo has made in his 8 years as governor, and it shows that he will do virtually anything for a few extra votes.
I think that an orangutan in the Bronx Zoo could realize that this is a misstep.
I would hope. Even if he's flinging poo at you, I would hope that he knew enough to say this is a misstep.
And everybody.
I mean, my God, pedophiles, to say that they have the basic...
The lowest of the low.
The lowest of the low. And
bro.
I understand.
I mean, I give, and trust me, it's very little more respect, but I give a little more respect to people that commit murder.
Murder. You're right. Yeah. It's like, I understand that in liberal New York, we can't put a bullet in their head, and I get all that, but what, we have to give them the rights that all freedom-loving Americans have? What's the thinking in that? And there are Democrats complaining about him doing this.
But to release them back to the public, to pardon them, to give them the reprieve, to allow them to vote, to take them off the sex offender registry, because that's what you essentially do when you pardon somebody. It's null and void. What they did is null and void. It did not happen.
And they're not supposed to be let back into those communities.
And you're going to now let them move next door to a school?
This is a big story.
And what is the Democrats' infatuation with pedophiles anyway? What is with that?
Because they're pedophiles.
Exactly.
I mean, sorry, but it wouldn't shock me if it came out that Andrew Cuomo was doing this to kids back in the day or now.
Well, listen, I'll tell you this. The Democrats definitely have sympathy for pedophilia, because if you look at the left, they go with the LGBT movement, which has also become the LGBTP movement, which means pedo love, where they say that love is love, right? Love is love, and a man should be able to
They're trying to normalize
to screw a child.
Like John Podesta.
That's what this is all leading to, and I hate to say it, it started with gay marriage. That's what this is all leading. No, it started with the Democrat Party. Even before that. Yeah. It's like anything goes nowadays. Guys, we got to end it there. I know we got a lot more to talk about, but we got to end it there. We really do. Next week, we have Center for Prosecutor Integrity guest Michelle Owens coming on by, and we also have Robert Spencer. He's the director of Jihad Watch, and he's good friends with Miss Pamela Geller, and we're going to talk to him about the rise and the dangers of Islam. And you know,
oh yeah,
on Sundays 3 to 5, woo! Keep the dial tuned in to 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk, because this is Freedom on Deck. Good day.